We're good. Okay. We started last week, precious. I guess we'll translate that as abstinence. Precious is the beginning of Chasidus. We said that Zehirus, Rizos, and Nikiyas, being careful from doing Aveirus, running to mitzvahs, and then making sure one is clean from any Aveira, B'chlal, even the more subtle types of Aveiras, that makes a person into a tzaddik. A person's righteous. A person wants to be a chassid and has to go to the Mishur Sadin. He has to start with precious. Precious is Kaddish Atzmacha B'Mutalach, when a person separates himself from that which is mutter. Now, obviously, this is a very dangerous thing. As the Mesillas discussed in the 13th chapter, he said that we have many chazals saying that, it's not enough the Torah aser, you want to aser more, you want to prohibit more? But other chazals say that no, Kaddish Atzmacha B'Mutalach, you should take what's mutter and you should prohibit it on yourself. So the Mesillas Yesharim said that the way you know if it's productive or not, it is you should hold back from yourself anything that you don't need to survive. The idea of precious is whatever I need for my health, for my mental health, for my physical health, that I have to indulge in, so to speak. Not indulge, but I have to use that Hashem gives me in this world to accomplish those things. But whatever is above and beyond what I need to survive, so then I shouldn't be involved in. And that doesn't mean, like we said last week, you can't have bagels and lox. Whatever a person needs, whatever gives them a geschmack, whatever a person enjoys, to a point, a person has to be involved in. So, I'm sure everyone's heard of this cult called Lev Tahor, right? Okay, so someone showed me a documentary when they were still in Canada. And we all agree that they're Mishugoyim? Yeah, Avi, you agree? Okay. So just to make sure.
They were just all arrested.
No, they got arrested. They're kidnapping children. So you watch this documentary with the head guy who died in the ocean or whatever. So Lamaisa, they don't look at women. Now, I could hear that. I don't think that makes a person crazy. I don't think they're crazy. They daven in the morning, put these black things in their armor on their head, and they sway back and forth when they pray to God. That doesn't make them crazy. We do that also, right? So as I was listening to him, there are many things he's saying that, why are they crazy? And if they're crazy, I'm crazy. What is the difference between the shtibel and Lev Tahor?
Not much.
You're not trafficking.
So I was trying to figure out what's the difference. And I realized the difference is in precious. I mean, they take precious to a ridiculous degree. They go too far, right? They have they impose a 3-hour shacharis on 13-year-old boys, on 10-year-old kids. If you have people that want to do that, you have to make sure they're stable because it's not a normal thing to do. But let's say adults want to do that. But for little kids, you make them daven for 3 hours a day, and their modes of tznius is totally, they take precious, they don't listen to the Mesillas Yesharim. They take precious to an extent that's unhealthy, and therefore there's chilul Shabbos, and there's kidnapping children. That's what happens when you start with a good, davening is good, and a slow davening, we all agree the shtibel, is a good thing to have a slow davening. But there's a gvul, there's a boundary where it gets too much. And that's that's the danger in precious. And what makes it even more challenging is that there is no Shulchan Aruch for precious. Precious begins where the Shulchan Aruch ends, as we'll see in Perek Yudal, the 14th chapter, that precious, every person has to have their own Shulchan Aruch. Every person, every community, every kehillah has to figure out for themselves, okay, what is an appropriate time to daven, what is appropriate for Oynik Shabbos. It gets quite challenging, but that's not a reason not to get involved in it, right? So a tzaddik is someone who follows Shulchan Aruch, and then a chassid is someone who goes beyond Shulchan Aruch, and that's when it gets very dangerous. Because if a person goes too far, as actually Rav Schreck was speaking this morning in Young Israel, so Schreck, I used to be in a Shiur for 1 semester, so he used to say that sometimes if you go too far to the right, you end up coming back to the left. It's like a circle. You go too far, you have to be careful. And that's actually the source from the Mesillas that we're going to see this morning. So Perek Yudal discusses the chelkei ha-precious, the different types of precious, and the Mesillas says there are 3 types of precious. Chelkei precious ha-rashim shloisha, there are 3 basic types of precious. Kihine yesh precious bahana, a person has to withhold himself from certain pleasures, which he discussed in the 13th perek, which was from food, from hanging out with the chevra, from schmoozing, things like that. Then you have precious b'dinim, when it comes to halacha, there's a type of precious one has to have, and precious b'minhagim, Precious the way I act. Not necessarily halacha, but the way I act. So it says the Mesillas Yesharim, the precious when it comes to dinim is lahachmir behen tamid, to always be stringent. Lachush afilu l'divrei yachid b'machloikis im taman nira. Afilu she'en lach kamoisik. To be concerned for a minority opinion, even if the normative halach does not follow that opinion. But uv'tnai, and he says as long as his reason makes sense. I mean, I think that this Reb Meir Shita or this Das Yachid in the place, let's say, this Chaya Adam I think makes a lot of sense. Therefore, I'm going to go with it. Uv'tnai is a very important stipulation. Shelo yihyeh chamroi kuloi. His chumrah shouldn't be a kula. Often, if one is machmir, he's stringent, that stringency can end up being a leniency. Right? So if I'm very particular how I pronounce my Kriya Shema, and it takes me 3 hours a day to say Kriya Shema, and I lose my job, so it's a chumrah that's coming to a kula. Right? One has to be very careful in his chumras that it's not pagay in other individuals, that doesn't affect other people. So that's a very important thing. He says, if there's a doubt, and a person can be machmir, let's say he wants to go to northern Finland, and he realizes that it's a big doubt about when Shabbos is there, so the person doesn't go. That's precious. As far as tzidkus, as far as the halacha, we can find the mahal, we can find an approach. But a person says, you know what, it's a suffix, I'm not sure, I'm going to hold back. That's precious when it comes to dinim. A marker, a source list in the Gemara is Chulin Daf Lamed Zayin. Where's the Daf Yomi holding? Around there?
20, I don't know.
Okay, 20s and 30s, you're close there. Yecheskel was saying...
We start the second pair.
Second parak. This is still in the second parak. This is towards the end of the second parak. Hine nafshi lo metuma v'nevelo treifa lo echalti. My nefesh is not tamei. I didn't eat nevelo and treifa. Minu urai v'ad ata. From the time I was a kid until now. So says the Gemara Darshans, Yecheskel Lavi was saying, Shlo echalti mi behemesh shahari b'chacham. I did not eat from an animal that required a chacham to paskin on. In other words, the wife comes with the chicken to the Rav and says, I think this looks like a treifa, something's wrong with it, and the chacham has to look at it and he has to paskin, no, it's fine. So Yecheskel Navi never ate from a chicken that required psak halacha. Now, Shulchan Aruch says, there's a whole hilchos treifas. It's all about when a shaila comes to you, what are you paskin? So what do you mean Yecheskel didn't eat? That's precious. Once there was a shaila, so I'm staying away from that. And if you remember also that he said in Perek Yud Gimel, Mesillas Yesharim, that the point of precious is not just stam to abstain from pleasure of this world. The point of precious is to not come to an avera. So if a person is careful not to eat from an animal, that even the chacham had to even have, it was a shiloh about it, for sure he's in a much better position not to violate the actual Isser of treifas. Now I'm not suggesting that anyone does this here. Obviously you have to be on the level. Right? The Gemara in Chulin, later the Gemara in Chulin says that, I think it was Mar Ukva, says that I am vinegar the son of wine. Chala bar chamra. I'm the vinegar the son of wine. Why? Because my father, when he ate meat, he would not eat milk for 24 hours until the same time tomorrow. 9:21 he eats meat. He's not eating milk until 9:21 Monday morning. But me, Nebuch, I wait 12 hours. That's what he said. I wait 12. So I'm chala bar chamra. I'm vinegar the son of wine. So the kasha is, so wait 24 hours. What do you say you're vinegar the son of wine? So then become wine. Wait 24 hours, you'll be wine. Must be he held. I mean, I don't think he only waited 12 hours because his taiva, his desire for ice cream was so great that for Hershey's chocolate bar that he couldn't hold himself back. This is Mar Ukva. He quotes this here. Was it Mar Ukva? Yeah, it was Mar Ukva, right? So what was it? Why didn't he wait 24 hours? It must be that if he would wait 24 hours, he'd still be vinegar. Meaning he wasn't on the level. He held he was challah. He was not on the level of his father. So if he acts like his father, that's not going to make him on the level of his father. His father was on the level that he should be waiting 24 hours. Or it's praiseworthy, we'll say, for him to wait 24 hours. But Mar Ukva himself held he wasn't on that darga. Okay, but at least, so you're not on the darga. But isn't it good to at least pretend you're on the darga? So must be not. If a person is challah, he has to know that I am vinegar, and therefore I'm going to wait whatever's appropriate for me. So when it comes to precious, a person has to know where he's holding, as we say. Right? So it's not just to run after every chumrah. Yecheskel would not eat from an animal that a chacham had to paskin on, but if one is sure he's on that level, then gesundheit hate, you can go with that on Haga. If a person is not sure, you probably shouldn't do that. That's the danger, that's the challenge, I should say, when it comes to precious. But that's precious bedinim. So if a person feels that, I want to be making this Indian because it makes sense, or I see these people do it and therefore I feel I'm on the level, and it doesn't affect anyone else, it's not going to impact on my family. All of a sudden, I'm going to be makbid on a certain way to prepare food, I'm going to be makbid on a certain shrita, a certain hashgacha, and it's going to put my family out. You have to make sure that's appropriate. Right? That's what he said before. Your chumrah can't be a kula. You have to make sure it's not a kula. But that is, when it comes to halacha, and you see people, whatever you take seriously, so you get very into it, right? Let's say, for example, we do a few vegan restaurants, right? These people are very into the vegan culture, and they do not view it at all, he's not here, they do not view it at all as being cumbersome, whereas you would view it as being very cumbersome.
But people would view kashrus.
Kashrus, exactly.
I support it, it's not cumbersome.
So, but if you believe in it, if you believe this is mamish of salvation, this is you're gonna live to 120, this is so then it's not cumbersome. So all the chumras are not, they're not weighing down on you. And there's a tremendous machmir when I was in the mirror of Yaakov Kaplan. This guy was machmir everything. He once giving a shmooze to Bachram about Shumas and Mises, and the Bachar said, it's too much. So he gave a marshal. He said there was a guy once went to a hotel, and he left his suitcases there in the lobby, and he went up to his room, and the porter was going to bring his suitcase to his room. And the guy comes in, huffing and puffing, such heavy suitcases, He wanted a big tip, and he was talking, heavy suitcases. So the guy says, no, it must not be mine. Mine were very light. That's what he said. This Rabbi Kaplan was saying, which I thought was very smart. Sometimes machmir, they don't chacham. They think everyone else should be machmir like them. This Rabbi Kaplan was not like that. He said that, for me it's light. My suitcases are light. If you view them as being heavy, then you should think twice before you take on a chumrah. Right? So it's all about where the person is holding. It's all about your perspective. If halacha is like, okay, it's another restriction and another restriction, then it's very difficult. But the Chafetz Chaim says, the standard is we can't say anything. And then there's what you can say. It's not that we can say everything, and then Shmiras Halashon confines us and restricts us. The starting point is we're not allowed to say anything. You can't open your mouth. Right? And then look how much the Torah allows me to say. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you 90% of the money you make. It doesn't give you 100% and asks you to give away 10. Here's $1 million. Keep 900,000 for yourself and give away 100,000. Wow, thank you very much. It's all part of the perspective. Right? Same when it comes to precious, it's part of the perspective. It's not that I'm adding on things that are more difficult. It's that I want to be involved in this. This is how I feel like I'm going to be successful in life. That's precious in dinner. Then you have precious in minhagim. So he defines that as being it's okay to be social, and it's good to be social, and it's healthy to be social, and everyone should be social. But there is a point where it goes too far. So again, he said a person should be with the chevra. He says that the Chazal say, "Maring Sulis." A person has to be, part of the tzibur. You can't exist on an island by yourself. A person must be part of the tzibur. But again, a person has to be careful not to be too involved and involve himself in social settings that are inappropriate, where averos can happen, and even where no averos can happen, just idle chatter. One has to be careful. So we have to have precious when it comes to halal, when it comes to pleasures. When it comes to halacha, my approach to halacha is like the vegans that are so into their vegan kites, and any chumrah they can take vegan on. Kite. New word, right? Call Webster's and tell them to add it today. It's not a tircha for them because they're very into it. That's why we have to view halacha, and the precious in din, and then is easier. Then you also have precious when it comes to minhagim. When it comes to hanging out with the chevra, one has to be careful to make sure that it's done in the appropriate manner. We'll quickly see Parak Tesvav outside. How does one come to precious? How does that happen? How does one incorporate that into their lives? So says the Mesillas Yesharim, it's relatively simple. Meaning, it's very hard for me right now to convince myself to be a parish and not to eat more than I have to, and to pull back from the social settings. I'm a very social person. But if a person is misboden, if he thinks, if he contemplates, let's say food, right? So he says here, what's the hana one gets from food? So you taste it in your mouth and it goes down to your stomach. So you're full at the end of the day. Now, if you're full, that could have been from just bread. Once your stomach is full, right? The hana you have is those few moments the food is in your mouth and your taste buds and you swallow it, right? So he's saying, at the end of the day, what's the pleasure there? And a person can think to himself, is that really a long-lasting pleasure at my funeral? Or do I want them to say how many steaks they ate and how many, So if a person contemplates that, is this really the way for me to achieve happiness? being involved in these hanas, being involved with this chevra, is this the way I'm going to have happiness in life? If a person contemplates that, then precious becomes easy. So it's all about the mindset, which are muscle to I think to vegan. I'm not picking on vegans; they're wonderful people. But I'm saying it's a musar haskell for us, that for us who are non-vegans, we look at that as so restrictive, right? In their minds they're being parish, right? And for a good reason. But they believe in it. If they believe in it, then it's easy. So that's really the whole Perek Tezvav. You could either read it inside, or you could look at a vegan. Those are the two mahalchim. How you can achieve precious. Those are the two mahalchim. If you believe it, if they contemplate that, you know what, this cake, this soda is poison. If I would give you cyanide, would you drink it? You wouldn't drink it. So in their minds, it's mamish poison. If cigarette smoking in your mind is poison, you don't have a desire to smoke a cigarette. To us, lighting a fire on Shabbos is poison. It's not hard for us not light fires on Shabbos. It's all about the mindset. So nothing is hard in life. Nothing is hard to do. It's all about the mindset. And Perek Tezvav says in Yesharim, we have to contemplate what is going to bring me happiness. Is indulging in pleasure, is that going to bring me happiness? Once a person contemplates that, then everything becomes easier. So our project for this week is going to be, how many seconds? 30 seconds? A minute and a half? 2 minutes. 2 minutes a day on the ride to work, on the walk to shul, whatever it might be. 2 minutes a day, a person should think about achila. Think about his approach to food. Again, I'm not saying we should all become vegans. Okay? Don't misquote me. But let's think about our approach to food and see, are we overindulging? And does that bring a simcha? Or anyone can pick any tchum they want, any area of pleasure in the world they want. 2 minutes a day, contemplate, is this really what brings me happiness?
You should have said that before I had 2 bagels.